Okay. For the first video, for chapter 9, we're going to talk about long-term assets. We're going to talk about fixed assets, and we're going to talk about depreciation. So for the very first one, we're just going to kind of talk about what a fixed asset is. Well, a fixed asset is an asset that we use for more than 1 year, generally something large, but it doesn't have to be. It actually can be either tangible or intangible in some ways. But generally a fixed asset is a tangible asset. That's owned and used by the company in its normal operations. They're not offered for sale as a part of the normal business. So why we have this definition is because the same asset could be defined by one company as a fixed asset and by another company as not a fixed asset. So an example that would be a car. Well, if I'm a car dealership, that car that I'm selling is inventory. But if I am a company that uses that car to drive around and do other things for the business then that would be a fixed asset. So I'm using it in the normal course of business versus something I'm selling in the normal course of business. So when I buy it and I know that it's long lived, generally speaking, more than a year, then we can decide that it's most likely a fixed asset. So it's got a two-step process here in your book on page 427, where it says, is the purchase item long lived? If yes, it's recorded as an asset on the balance sheet, either fixed or an investment, and proceed to step 2. If it's used in its normal operations. If yes, it's classified as a fixed asset. If no, then it's classified as an investment. So how do I classify the costs of a fixed asset? So the cost of a fixed asset, effectively anything that I need in order to make that fixed asset ready to be used is what would be included in the cost of that fixed asset. So that would include everything from so in a building, that would include everything from like architect's fees, engineering fees, anything that actually takes to get it going, taxes if there's certain taxes, sales taxes, repairs, modifying the building. Let's say I need to put in new doors because it doesn't have the right size door for what I want to do with it. That would be part of the cost. So not just necessarily what I paid for it, but also other things that could pertain to that building. So if I'm having to do things to it to get it ready to go, then that's a cost. And we need to know this because this is where we start our calculations. We have to know our initial cost of an asset in order to start our depreciation calculation in the first place. So machinery and equipment, everything from installation, repairs, reconditioning, insurance while it's in transit, all types of things that would be included in my machinery and equipment. Land, it would be everything from the purchase price, sales tax, permits, if there are any titles, surveying fees, anything like that would also be included in the cost of our land. But land is interesting because land is one of the only ones of these categories that we do not depreciate. We'll talk about why that is and kind of what that's all about here in a minute. Land improvements is also depreciated. So trees, shrubs, fences, sprinkler systems, sidewalks, parking lots, outdoor lighting, those would all be land improvements that would be depreciated over time. So those would all be things and we would include any of the costs of any of those items in the initial cost of our fixed asset in the first place. I'm going to stop that for the introduction for chapter 9, and we'll move on to the second one in chapter 9 after this.